Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Monahan has been traded.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special, slightly shorter emergency episode of Locked On Canadiens, your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week. I am back ahead of schedule from my work trip in Dallas, and boy, did I walk back into a whole bunch. I am Scott Matla. I am running the show. Laura is currently on a plane traveling, so she gets to catch up on all of this when she lands, and that's going to be delightful. So we're going to make a quick rundown on this because doing a little bit shorter episode, we're not going to do a full thing. We'll see what kind of happens after the weekend and what's going on here. But the biggest news of the day, after Elias Lindholm was traded from Calgary to Vancouver earlier on this week, insiders were reporting that, hey, we are going to see the market heat up on Sean Monahan. And that was last night, I think, which was Thursday night. Today is Friday morning when I am recording this. And I got to say, that market went from we're slowly simmering, got a nice sauce on the stove, to simmering, keeping an eye on it, to we have just cranked that stove up all the way. There's boiling water everywhere. And the next thing you know, Sean Monahan is now a Winnipeg Jet. Kent Hughes, when he is happy to be patient and wait until his price is met on a deal. Based on how quickly this trade was done today, it went from keep an eye on this to being done in about, say, a half an hour. I think that price got met pretty quickly here. The Jets were clearly in on Elias Lindholm. They missed out, and they went for the second best center on the market at the trade deadline here. So to break it all down, I have the tweet from Frank Saravalli that I have pulled up in front of me. To the Jets, they get just Sean Monahan. And a key point in this, the Montreal Canadiens are retaining $0 on Monahan's contract, keeping an open retention slot for them going into the trade deadline. The Canadiens get the Jets' 2024 first-round pick and a conditional 2027 third-round pick that is conditioned on the Winnipeg Jets winning the Stanley Cup. So the Canadiens got at least a first-round pick in this upcoming draft year for Sean Monahan. What that means, where that's going to be, I'm going to say early 20-ish, unless the Jets really go on a run. They've been struggling of late with the coward Mark Scheifele being out injured and a little bit of regression setting in after they had such a ridiculously hot streak through November, early December, where Gabe Vilardi and everyone was absolutely cooking on that team. They have now had to dial that back just a touch here. And for the Canadiens, let's just talk about the return on all this. I was hoping for a warm body or a prospect. Someone said Rasmus Kupari could be a good option there. The Habs are going to need somebody to play center. Anybody at all to play center. So right now, but we'll get into all that. It's just a first round pick, meaning the Canadiens, since Ken Hughes has taken over and acquired Sean Monahan, have gotten 2 first-round picks for the former Calgary Flames center. They got a first-round pick to take him off the hands of the Flames, which in and of itself is great. That's fantastic because they didn't want him, and that was the trade that has all these circumstances around it. They are likely not getting Calgary's first in this draft. It's likely leaning towards 2025 when it is not lottery protected, which is a huge boon for Hughes and the Canadiens. And they got one for trading him away with no salary retained whatsoever. They already paid out his performance bonus on the year, which I can't remember if that was goals or games played or whatnot. But honestly, they got 2 first-round picks for a player that his previous team didn't want, got hurt early last year, and has played well enough to be a good middle 6 offensive contributor. He's going to win you faceoffs. He's not going to do much defensively for you. And then shipped him out the door. Exactly what a team in the position of the Canadiens should be doing here. And they now have 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft. I was hoping they would get the second they had traded away in the Christian Dvorak deal that ended up being part of the Pierre-Luc Dubois deal, because that is their own pick. And that's trending to be early second round based on the way the Canadiens are in the standing inside. That like a top 40, 42 pick in there, which would be huge for the Habs, in addition to that first round pick they're already getting. But 2 first round picks, and we know that every time Kent Hughes has multiple picks in the first round of a draft, he has something else cooking here. We've heard rumors about Trevor Zegras. I don't think that's going to be what happens here, but oh my, if there was ever time to do it, you've got your first round pick that you will likely keep. You've got the Jets one, you've got pieces you can put together. I don't think it's going to be enough, but I am becoming more and more inclined to believe that this late first round pick is going to turn into one of those draft day trade ups from Kent Hughes. And we know he loves them, and we know they always seem to be turning into something masterful here. It's hard to not call this trade an immediate win. Looking at the trade itself, in our second segment, we're gonna touch on what it means for the team as a whole. But just looking at the trade itself, Kent Hughes did an incredible job he lost out on that potential pick last year, where Monahan was maybe struggling a little bit and maybe wouldn't have gotten a first. Comes in this year, decent power play contributor, scored some pretty clutch goals for the Canadiens, stayed healthy, and wins faceoffs. He does the little things that GMs go, oh, faceoff percentage, clutch goals, things like that, that aren't maybe the most important thing in the world, but attract the eyes of old school GMs. And Kevin Cheveldayoff certainly fits the bill on that. And the minute Elias Lindholm was traded, the market shifted directly to Sean Monahan. And that, I think, is a key thing that Hughes saw, that immediately started calling up people who were maybe in on that, or had kind of, maybe they checked in a little bit on Sean Monahan earlier before the trade deadline here. And he found someone to say, I want a first round pick. And he found a buyer. And that buyer is Kevin Cheveldayoff, who masterfully navigated the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade and then kind of got taken to the cleaners a little bit on this one here. I like Sean Monahan. I acknowledge that defensively, he's not as good as he used to be or could be. He's a pretty big power play heavy contributor, which for the Jets, though, is great. You have a power play that can do a lot. Guys like Ehlers, guys like the coward Mark Scheifele, Gabe Vilardi, a lot of these younger pieces coming up, even their defense, guys like Josh Morrissey, etc., they can do a lot of damage on the power play. And Sean Monahan's going to help facilitate that a whole bunch. And for Hughes, you get another first round pick in a draft where the first round has a lot of high-end talent here, and a lot of it is defensemen. I do not want the Canadiens to take a defenseman with their own pick, but if someone slides down the board a little bit into the range of where that Jets pick ends up being, you know what? You take it. It gives you that extra swing at the piñata, so to speak here. It's it's just really smart business to get this asset here, that they took a risk bringing Monahan back. What if he came in and he wasn't as good this year? If he got hurt again? Cheaper deal, came back. If they want to bring him back next year, they can. His deal expires at the end of the season. If they really love Sean Monahan that much, they want to bring him back as like a third line center on this team, where hopefully someone has graduated into that second line role. They have Kirby Dach will be back. Then fine. They can do that. They have the option to do that. Just a really bit of masterful business here. This does, however, mean there is going to be a lot of changes for the Canadiens down the stretch here. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be exciting hockey. And Nick Suzuki, get ready to learn 30 minutes a night, buddy. We're going to talk about what this means for Nick Suzuki and the Habs coming up in our second segment. And to everybody else, we are almost at the big game. And to everyone who's celebrating, join us at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because if you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. And let's be honest here. How many times are they going to show Taylor Swift? Is Travis Kelce going to catch a touchdown in this game? How many times will they mention that Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, or that this 49ers team lost the Super Bowl a couple years ago? You're going to be able to find all that and more at FanDuel. And not only can you bet on who will score in Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel has bets for which players are going to score a touchdown, how many points are going to be scored, all those things, in addition to things like the Parlay Hub, where you can find multi-leg parlays that are popular with their users right now. And new customers, if you join today, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. If your first bet of $5 or more wins, just visit fanduel.com/locked-on to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. And remember to make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL and us here at Locked On. Hoo boy. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. This is a very special, slightly shorter emergency trade episode. Woo, yes. I am recording this while in the middle of doing my day job. So, Sean Monahan, gone for a first and a conditional third in 2027, which is a fake year, does not exist. I'm not thinking about the fact that I will be 37 in that year. I am not thinking that far ahead. As I kind of sit here now and I go, good, first round pick is great. I love that. I absolutely love that they are getting a first round pick for a player that they got a first round pick for. I am making sure that nothing else has happened. So Ken Hughes will talk at 1 p.m. on Zoom. Ways off right now, so we don't got to worry about that. I imagine more might be coming. And I was probably going to thank Monahan for his time here, everything he did for the team, etc. Not close the door on a return because he's a player agent and he knows how to speak in this kind of way. A lot of people are like, well, now who's playing center for the Canadiens? They didn't get any bodies back in this deal. Like I said, I thought maybe Rasmus Kupari as like just a stopgap option here. It doesn't have to be pretty at all. It's not going to, and the thing is, the truth of the matter is this back half of the season is not going to be pretty. Let's get that out of the way, because what this Monahan trade means immediately is our second line center, and ours, meaning the Montreal Canadiens second line center, is now Jake Evans. They do not have another healthy center besides Evans and Nick Suzuki on the Canadiens roster right now. They have guys who can maybe play center to pinch. Michael Pezzetta can take some faceoffs and play 7 minutes a night. They don't have a third line center. They do not have a fourth line center, but a fourth line center is easily replaceable. You just call up Mitchell Stevens or someone and you put him in that role. Great. Love that. They do not have right now center depth, and we will see what happens. The Laval Rocket are playing tonight. There's every potential possibility that maybe before their next game, they make a move to sign to Brandon Gignac to an NHL contract. Call up Elias Anderson. There's no rush to get somebody to Montreal when they do not play until February 6th. The Rocket play 2 games this weekend, 2 crucial North Division games against the Rochester Americans at Place Bell this weekend. They are not going to call anybody up at this point. We can put that off to the side. We'll worry about that when it comes next week. Probably around the 4th or the 5th after this weekend. Monday, we will probably see a recall, or Sunday night, depending on the 5 p.m. deadlines and whatnot. What this means right now is everybody who thought Nick Suzuki was playing a lot of minutes before, you ain't seen nothing yet. There will potentially be nights that Nick Suzuki is playing 25 plus minutes with startling regularity. On one hand, this is a huge testament to the faith that they have in their team captain and their star player. They're all star right now. And the faith that they have in Cole Caulfield to play alongside him, potentially Uri Slafkovsky to play us alongside him in those minutes. We love that. We absolutely love seeing that. It's going to be ugly because the depth behind the Canadiens takes a bit of a blow. Sean Monahan was one of their leading scorers. And yes, a lot of that was on the power play, which now is its own. We will get to that in just a moment. A lot more is going to be on Nick Suzuki's shoulders here. A lot of us who are big fans of Nick Suzuki know that he is capable of this. I am not worried about Nick Suzuki shouldering pressure, but I am worried that the supporting cast here is going to wear him down. He's on his own Iron Man streak. bless him, he's played slightly hurt in the past couple years just to keep that 82 game thing alive. I could desperately use Nick Suzuki just taking a break. Someone to ease that burden. Yes, Ken Hughes could not predict Christian Dvorak tearing a muscle, Kirby Dach blowing out his knee in the second game of the season. Absolutely could not have predicted either of those things. And I wouldn't have changed the way they came into the season. I thought that having Suzuki, Dach, Monahan, Dvorak, Evans, etc., is a pretty good balance of things. They even tried Newhook at center too. And I think, and this is my headcanon right now, you have Suzuki and Evans. That's 1C, 2C. Alex Newhook has started skating again. He seems to be on track to recover and be back soon. He's been skating before practice with I believe it's the skills team and probably some of the medical staff, just keeping an eye on things. My biggest thought is we are going to see Alex Newhook at center once he is back. And I know it's not great, but here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to pair him with Josh Anderson. Give Newhook Yoel Armia, which is a wild statement for me to say out loud, and give him either Brendan Gallagher after suspension or maybe Raphael Harvey-Pinard. Someone who can play a game that allows Newhook to use his creativity and speed. Armia's good at keeping cycles going and possessing the puck. Harvey-Pinard can get wherever he needs to be to put the puck in the net or on net. Same with Brendan Gallagher. And Newhook can be creative. He can beat guys with speed, draw the defenders, and allow his line mates to slide in there. I'm not overly hopeful for great results out of it, but I think that that's what they're going to do, barring another trade happening in the next little bit here. You'll see Mitchell Stevens, a Gignac contract, maybe Xavier Simoneau, Elias Anderson called up from Laval in short order, I think. Just once they are done with their games this weekend, we'll see that move. There's your fourth line center. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to worry about it. You shouldn't worry about it. It also means that this is now, they were already in a tank anyways, but this just means they put that tank out of neutral where they were kind of like, we're not far out of a playoff spot. They have punched that sucker into drive and shifted it into a higher gear here. This is a Canadiens team that is going to turn around, I think, and they are going to plummet down the standings here. Goaltending's regressed a little bit. Some of the defenses regressed a little bit, which we expected. This is a team now that I think is going to be trying to promote the assets they have for trade. What can they do at this deadline to shed some of these other deals potentially and become a team that is actually a dangerous contender? Well, we will find out as the times come on here. I believe they don't play until the 6th again. Until then, we'll see what else Ken Hughes has up his shoes. Up his sleeves, I should say, not in his shoes. It's still early. I'm processing the entire trade here. I will be back for Monday's episode. We'll do 3 up and 3 down. We'll go over the fallout of this, his press conference, the Rocket games and everything, what that means for everybody involved here. But until then, you can follow us on Twitter at @LO_Canadiens. Follow us wherever you get your daily podcasts, Google, Apple, Spotify, or if you are watching this on youtube.com, subscribe there, tell all your friends, subscribe to Locked On Sports Today, where you get a 24/7 stream of all the latest Montreal Canadiens content, including and all the other content that we have at Locked On Sports, football, basketball, everything, all in one place, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can follow me on Twitter at Scott Matla. Thank you for tagging along for what has been a very impromptu episode here. I know we will have so much more on Monday, but until then, I will see you all next time.